Okay, one more minute and we're going to start. And I'm telling you, we're going to start by voting. So if you're on Zoom or you're in this room or if you're out in the hallway, if you want to vote, you need to get in the room because we're now a little bit past 1 o'clock. And we are going to do two things as I call us back to order. The first thing we're going to do is a report of the first ballot. Believe it or not, we actually did get some ballots done. We're going to get a report on that. It doesn't deserve that kind of applause yet, but eventually I hope it will. Then we're going to go straight to the deputies' election, and we're going to try it again because we need to see if that's going to work for the rest of the day. So the first thing I'm going to do is call on the secretary to give us a report of the first ballots that we did take.
Oh, good. Is it going to come up?
Are those going to be posted? Because that's how we do it. We post them and then she reads them. Okay, we came up with an agenda. I'm going by it. Here we go. All right, I'm going to let the secretary report it.
For Diocesan Council, Holy See, Allison received 131 votes. Emily Meeks, 171.
I believe this just requires a majority. Am I right about that? So we have an election. Emily Meeks is elected to Diocesan Council. All right, here's one more.
For Diocesan Council, Lay at Large. Stuart Case received 89 votes. Karen Sostrom, 132. Mandy Whitaker, 94.
I declare that Karen has won the Diocesan Council Lay at Large vote. No, wait, I'm wrong. We are going to have an election of the two highest, so we will have an election between Mandy and Karen. That will be on our next ballot. My parliamentarian is back there, so he's giving me hand signals now, as if this wasn't hard enough. Okay, do we have any other to report? I don't think so. Yes. We do, okay.
For a standing committee in the lay order, we have 85 votes for Skylar Carroll. For Carol Loudenbach, we have 131. And for Christina Tina Polf, we have 57.
Just going out on a limb here, I think we'll have an election, no? Yes, with two of the highest, so we will have a election in our next ballot between Skylar and Carol. And I believe that is, no, we got one more?
For standing committee in the clerical order, Jed Fox received 93.
Those are lay votes.
And 34. And one,
Clergy votes.
and-
93 lay votes and 34 clergy
Okay,
votes.
those are in terms of the votes. Elise Johnston received 129. Those are the lay votes, yes, and 75 of the clerical votes.
We do have an election. Elise Johnstone has been elected to standing committee. And if I remember right, we're doing two of these. So she gets the longer term, and Jed Fox is also elected to the shorter term. Am I correct? Yes, I'm getting the thumbs up. So they're both elected to different terms. So congratulate them both. Do we have other reports, or are we going to a vote? Okay, now we're going to attempt to use these little things again. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and I don't know if Katrina's going to come and say more. I think she is, so she's coming up here. But I want to say one thing we're going to do is try to take our time. You're looking for received to be on there. I think what she's going to tell you is what they reported to me was that the problem is bandwidth. And so they're going to ask you to turn off all your other devices, your iPad, your phone, all that kind of stuff, and try to get off the Wi-Fi so that only these can be on the Wi-Fi. That's one reason it was so concentrated over there with people not getting their votes through. We're also going to take time so you see received, and we'll wait on that. And we're going to pray, all of us, that works. All right, Katrina.
So yes, as the bishop just told you, I would like all of your devices, all your mobile devices, to just be turned off. Don't try to figure out if your Wi-Fi is off or not. Just turn it off. You don't need it right now for the next few minutes. Close your laptops. The fewer things we have on the Wi-Fi, the better. Otherwise, everyone seemed to be able to vote okay last time, which means you guys were all doing great, and I have total faith in you this time. Similar to before, you're going to want to have your choices listed out so you can keep track of who you've already voted for. You do not want to vote for anyone twice, remember? And when we're doing the General Convention voting, put in the number and hit the little envelope to hit send, and you should see received. And if you don't see received, that's when you put your hand up and ask a page to come help you.
Yes, and I'm going to try, what I'm going to do is ask if you've all gotten received. All right, so be looking. If you don't get it, that's when you raise your hand. Don't wait 5 minutes after that to explain that to us. All right, look at it and make sure you get received. If you get that, your vote has been counted and we're good. All right, so I'm going to ask that we put up the cleric order for deputies at convention. There was an objection lodged on Zoom about standing committee lay election, but my parliamentarian has told me since we're voting again on that, it should cancel out any objection to that vote. It was about people on Zoom not having time to do it, but we're going to do that one. and it should solve that problem. Do we have the list of the clergy for deputy? Thank you. Amazing. Now, if we don't take 10 minutes between every one of these, we might make it. All right. So we're back on clergy deputies. We're going to get ready to vote. We're going to do this again. You pick 4. We're going to vote 4 times. You're going to vote for 1 each time. Do not vote for the same person on any of those times, or your vote will be invalidated. 4 different people, 1 at a time. What are we looking for on our screen when we push send? Received. If we see that, there is no need for you to tell me that you have. But if you don't see that, yes, you need to let us know that you are not seeing that, and I will ask that. We will go slow through this to see if this will work. Has everybody got their little thing turned on? All right. So I'm going to open the polls for the first selection. So you're going to vote for one of these people right now. Polls are open. You make sure that Zoom has had time to do whatever they're doing. Okay. Ten seconds. All right, polls are closed. Now, everybody relax. Now I'm going to ask you, does anybody not get received?
Excellent.
What?
If the pages could check in with those people, that would be great.
All right, over here we have somebody to the left who did not get received.
And the pages there?
The pages there. Oh, it's the menus. Thank you.
You tell me when to go on to Zoom. Were they able to get theirs?
One person didn't get this one.
That's it. Okay. Except for a few little blips there, we did well. All right, we're going to go to the second selection. Remember, a different person. All right. Here we go. Polls are open. 10 seconds. All right, polls are closed. Take a deep breath. Did everybody get received? Okay. Don't anybody say anything. It's going too well, all right? We're on to the third selection. Again, a different person than the first two. Polls are open. Ten seconds. All right, polls are closed. Again, I'm going to ask, did you get received? She seems to have a problem with her machine right there. Yeah, they're coming. We'll get somebody there. Anybody else? All right, we'll record that one manually. And we will go to the fourth selection, your final selection this round for a different person than the first three. Polls are open.
Ten seconds.
All right, polls are closed. Mine took a lot longer that time, but I did get it. What about everyone else? Okay. Can I get an amen? All right. Before we get too happy, let's see if we can move to the lay deputies and do the first ballot the same way while we're on a roll.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, here we have the first selections. We're going to do exactly what we just did. 4 times, 4 different people, one at a time. You're doing so well. All right, here are the people. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to pick the 4 that you want and maybe write them down if you need to do that. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Yes? Okay. Okay. 201, Judy Andrews. 202, Sonny Bannon. 203, Elisa Johnson. 204, Sherilyn King. 206, Michael Sewer. 207, Karen Jostrom. 208, Lillian Springer. 209, Tiernan Sweeney Bender, and 210, April Thompson. All right, we're going to take our first. What's that? bring yours up here, and I'm going to take my frustration out on it. At the offering, I plan to throw it on the ground and stomp it a while. All right, we're going to do the first selection. Yes?
There's a missing person, 205.
Well, you're right. There's a missing number for sure. Is there a missing person?
That person was not nominated.
I'm told they were not nominated today. So this list is correct, and you don't have a 205 because they weren't nominated today. First selection, the poll is open now. I know it's hard. We'll go with, all right, 10 seconds. All right, polls are closed. Give some time, everybody get received. Okay, we'll go to the second selection. You have it before you now. Again, different person than the first one. Polls are open.
Ten seconds.
Polls are closed. Did everybody get received? Very good. This is rolling now. Okay, we're going to go to the third selection there before you. Again, different people. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. Everybody good? All right, we're going to the fourth and final one in this list, in this vote. Again, a separate person from all the other three. Polling starts now. 10 seconds. All right, polls are closed. How'd it go? All right. Step away from the machine. I think that's all we got to do right now. We'll get a report here in just a minute.
I believe we're going to keep you. We are number 47. All right. Thank you.
Keishan or? Okay, all right, all right. So we're going to give some awards now. And the first one, and the only Key Chin Award this year, goes to Julie Bliss Tiao of St. Timothy, Chehalis. Yay! And I think Julie cannot be with us, but she's watching on live stream is what I'm told, so she can hear your applause. And I want to tell you a little bit about her. Julie is the beloved music director at St. Timothy, Chehalis. St. Timothy's rector, Kay Flores, shares that these last few years have been challenging in so many ways, and Julie has supported the liturgy and worship of St. Timothy's with grace and aplomb. Prior to March 2020, the church used a paper bulletin with the liturgy and music printed on it. When they pivoted to a Zoom service in March 2020, they switched to PowerPoint so that their not too techie congregation wouldn't have to access a bulletin and Zoom. For a while, they met at the church, and Julie played over Zoom. As restrictions grew stricter, for a while they didn't offer music. As they thought about how to make their worship life more normal, Julie told Kay that she had used PowerPoint in a previous church and had the tools available to make recorded music. St. Timothy's immediately began experimenting with new ways to include music in their Zoom services. Their technology consultant offered to show Julie a way to turn the slides into movies, which made the service run even smoother. St. Timothy's offered a variety of season-appropriate music while they met on Zoom. Now they offer a hybrid service. Some of St. Timothy's members attend only by Zoom, while others attend on site. With Julie's help, St. Timothy's is able to offer a combination of live and recorded music. Julie is working with individuals who are leading the church in psalms and anthems with the idea that the choir will get back together soon. Julie meets weekly with Kay to ensure all of this works together. St. Timothy's is blessed to have Julie as its music director, and I am honored to gift Julie with the Key Chin Employee Excellence No Problem Award, and she is the sole recipient this year. Let's celebrate Julie. And I have quite a few bishop's crosses. This is like the pardon when a president leaves, I think. We're not going to be able to give them all, but I'm giving more than I probably would usually. And the way voting's going, it turns out it's good we have this time together. The first one goes posthumously to Paul Siebert from St. Benedict's Lacey. Paul passed away just probably in the last month or two, but he was nominated long before that by his congregation and by his vicar. And so I'd like to award this to him today. In addition to running a successful and long-loved local business, Paul Siebert was a consistent leader in action and worship. He has served the Aberdeen School District as a guidance counselor, as well as the Olympia and Lacey communities, by being a model example of the ideal parishioner at St. Benedict's. There are few leaders in the Olympia area that do not have a fondness and respect for the ministry of Paul's lifelong dedication to his community. An active churchman and former senior warden, Paul always played key roles in both the day-to-day operations of St. Benedict's and as a vital contributor to projects regarding issues ranging from childhood enrichment to the crisis of homelessness. Paul consistently made time for parishioners and community members. Paul expressed a deep call to service regardless of the person or need. Paul was a vessel of God's love. Whenever he could, Paul offered both ear and olive branch, showing that all members of our community are welcome. Prior to the pandemic, Paul stepped up and served as senior warden, acting as a key steward for the St. Benedict transition from mission to parish. Once the pandemic hit, Paul immediately became a source of strength, standing taller and inspiring us all to live our baptismal vows in creative ways. His accomplishments include, but are not limited to, overseeing the development of new parish bylaws, a financial policy and directive for accountability and stewardship, a successful 2020 financial review, care for the homebound, support for lay leadership and worship from lectors to acolytes, building and grounds maintenance, outreach to include the recently added shower ban for the city homeless population, identification and lifting up of future leaders, tireless mentoring of the priest in charge, and the various tasks that keep the church doors open. It is not possible to capture the litany of tireless contributions that Paul has made to the St. Benedict community. It is apparent through humble leadership and a servant's heart that Paul's hands-on approach of caring for all of God's creation through direct action, education, and hospitality has shaped St. Benedict Episcopal Parish in Lacey into the fellowship where all are welcome. It is my pleasure and honor to award Paul Siebert posthumously with the Bishop's Cross. And if you had the great pleasure that I did to know Paul, every bit of that's true and more. He was a true saint of God, as is this person right here, Taurus Hui from Holy Apostles Bellevue. Taurus has been a member of Holy Apostles Bellevue for over 25 years. He started attending in 1990 when the church was named St. James of Jerusalem. During that time, he has served the congregation in several ways: treasurer, senior warden, junior warden, lector, lay Eucharist minister, liturgy planner, pastoral care, driver, evangelist, acolyte, cook, janitor. No, I added that in. Sorry about that. Because I know that's probably true as well. Yes. During the ministry of the Reverend Philip Wong, Taurus worked with him in the various events that Holy Apostles presented. Many of us remember the annual auction dinners and the celebrations of Chinese New Year. These would not have happened without Taurus' faithful ministry. He also worked with Reverend Wong in the work of the Chinese school connected with Holy Apostles. For 5 years, he served as principal of Holy Apostles Chinese School. The school had an enrollment of about 60 students. On Saturdays, for 2 hours, students would learn the Chinese language and culture. Classes were held at the Church of the Resurrection, St. Luke's, Renton, and St. Anthony Catholic Church in Renton. This was a chance for the church to be in contact with the larger Chinese community. After the retirement of Reverend Wong, Taurus became the central leader of Holy Apostles, and he has been involved in all facets of the church. He schedules supply priests and worship assistants and has stood at the altar beside many a priest to translate the Eucharistic prayers. He has been the spiritual inspiration for the community. Holy Apostles Bellevue is a congregation made up mostly of people of Chinese descent. 3 languages are spoken in that congregation: Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. Taurus manages communications in this complex setting Sunday after Sunday. He serves as translator for guest preachers, I can attest to it, which can take up to 3 hours of preparation time. He has even managed to translate Carla Robinson on the fly. That alone, which Carla says in her nomination is no small feat, and yes, we all agree. Taurus and his wife Christine periodically cook and serve meals at a homeless shelter in Bellevue for which Holy Apostles is a sponsor. All he does with grace and humor. All this he does while tending to the needs of his family. All this he does while continuing to do his full-time work. All this he does in a small congregation with no fanfare or sense of self-importance. He is a source of spiritual inspiration for Holy Apostles and for this diocese. Please join me in honoring Taurus Hui.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. The next Bishop's Cross Award goes to Bernadette Walcott of St. Luke's, Seattle. Bernadette Walcott arrived at St. Luke's, Seattle in 2015 when she moved to the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle. The priests in her former congregation knew of Bernadette's passion for cooking for the hungry. In both her previous congregations, she was an essential part of their feeding ministry. St. Luke's was a perfect fit, and Bernadette jumped in and began helping to prepare delicious, nutritious meals for the 100 to 200 people who come to the Edible Hope Kitchen every weekday. She opened the kitchen every morning at 5:30 a.m. prior to beginning her full-time job. In the afternoons and evenings, she works with volunteers of all ages, training them in how to prepare food for hundreds of people. Each week, she helps to feed people with the bread of life by preparing the altar for Sunday worship and sharing the word by serving as a lector. She has been active as a diocesan delegate, worship leader, and Bishop's Committee member. Her smile and laugh are infectious. She is loved by children, high school students, the many young people who come to help, and those she prays for regularly. Bernadette's energy is remarkable, and she is never afraid to tell her vicar what she thinks. And it's not in here, but she never fails to tell her bishop what she thinks either. And how things should be done. Her vicar, Britt Olson, says she always agrees. It is my great honor to award Bernadette Walcott the Bishop's Cross. She says she wants to say something, so settle in, okay?
That's not true, Bishop. I just want to thank Hannah Britt, Mother Hillary, for nominating me, and Bishop Rickle for presenting me with such an amazing award. It is truly an honor to receive this today. I want also to thank all the people, both past and present, who have supported me throughout my ministry. I would not have come this far without your love and support. Lastly, God has given me the gift to help others, and I will continue to do his work, bringing joy to others. I know he continues to give me the health and strength to do so, and I will accomplish what he put me on this earth to do. I just want to say thank you all, and God bless you. And I have to say, Bishop always surprises me in the kitchen because he shows up and does not tell anybody.
Thank you. We got off light there, I think. The next Bishop Cross Award goes to John Ted Ederer, St. John's, Kirkland. John Ederer, known by Ted, embodies the Spirit of Christ by living a deeply spiritual life of love of God, a love of people, and effective leadership at St. John's in Kirkland. Ted's love of the Episcopal Church began as a boy in his local parish and was furthered by his service as a delegate at Episcopal Youth Convention in Ohio. Ted leads a well-rounded life that integrates his love of God, love of others, and effective leadership and service. He is deeply spiritual and fosters that in others by leading 2 prayer groups and a Bible study. He serves as lector, LEM, and has served as member of our praise band. Ted also served as president of the Diocesan Cursillo Secretariat and on the National Episcopal Cursillo Committee. Ted's deep commitment to Christ has manifested in years of selfless service to the diocese over the past 40-plus years. He has served on and taken leadership positions on diocesan council and the standing committee, the cathedral chapter, and at diocesan convention. He also served on the insurance and personnel committees. His service to the diocese enhanced his capacity to serve and lead at St. John's, including his role as parish chancellor and his leadership in a men's dinner group. Ted was treasurer for many years, continues as an active member of the finance committee and a 3-year term on vestry, including a year as junior warden. Rather than retiring quietly, he agreed to chair the 2-year celebration of St. John's Centennial. Ted's love and care for others is expressed in his attention to members and newcomers alike. He regularly greets people and welcomes new people and visitors. He regularly includes children and young people in conversation. Ted, with his wife Jean, makes a point of staying connected with former church members who have moved away and those who may have drifted away from St. John's. It is fitting that an award that was established at the centenary of the diocese be awarded to a person leading St. John's Centennial, looking not only at the past, but into the future, and whose life exemplifies the Spirit of Christ. This is indeed true of Ted Ederer, whom I'm pleased to award the Bishop's Cross. And last, but certainly not least, the Bishop's Cross Award goes to Cindy and Larry Remick of St. Clair Snoqualmie. Cindy and Larry Remick have been the hands and feet of Christ in the Snoqualmie Valley for over 13 years. The Remicks started attending St. Clair Snoqualmie when they purchased a vacation home at Snoqualmie Pass, and Larry was still a practicing veterinarian in Edmonds. Cindy was the office manager. They have since retired and moved to North Bend. Always deeply involved in Edmonds, they sponsored local youth programs, assisted with animal control issues, and annually held a pet food drive coordinated with the Edmonds Food Bank. For many years, they regularly visited the homeless encampment in Seattle, offering clothes, food, and animal care to that population. In the diocese, they were involved in the reorganizing of Cursillo into Come and See, Go and Tell. Larry can always be found doing odd jobs around the church, ushering and serving on the Bishop's Committee. Cindy managed the church's finances as they became self-supporting, no longer needing diocesan grants to supplement the budget. She is also gifted in creating sacred space as we deepen worship experiences. They are active with St. Clair's Garden Ministry to the food bank. They help fill kids' backpacks each fall. They feed the hungry and organize twice-a-year disbursements from the outreach budget. In 2020, they and another member of St. Clair's dreamed of partnering with the Snoqualmie Valley Food Bank to provide products not readily available through food sourcing agencies. What started as a quarterly pilot project expanded quickly when COVID hit. In March 2020, when toilet paper and soap were in short supply, St. Clair's provided those desperately needed items. Through Cindy and Larry's leadership, the church now stores and then distributes core products monthly and have built relationships with clients. St. Clair's Prayer Shawl Ministry knits hats and scarves, which the group distributes during winter months. Cindy and Larry are year-round servants and a gift to the church and to the community. It is my great honor to award Cindy and Larry Remick with the Bishop's Cross. Thank you for that. It's now my great honor to call on the Reverend Canon Carla Robinson to present a report on the racial justice audit of Episcopal leadership.
Thank you, Bishop Rickle. Bishop, members of the head table, delegates to convention, and guests, greetings. I am here today in my role as member of the Diocese of Olympia Racial Audit Task Force. Other members of that task force are Roberta Newell, Vin Doe, Terry Allman, Josh Hornbeck, and the Reverend Bonnie Malone. From 2018 to 2020, the Episcopal Church surveyed members of the church's key leadership bodies. That includes the House of Bishops, the House of Deputies, the Executive Council, and the Episcopal Church Center with its staff. It also included leadership on the diocesan level, bishop staffs, diocesan councils, standing committees, commissions on ministry, boards of directors, or equivalent bodies. The goal of the survey was to gather data about people's experience of racism, racial identity, and power in the life of the church. A representative sample was drawn from 28 of the 99 dioceses and from all 9 provinces. The data was published in January 2021 in a report entitled The Racial Justice Audit of Episcopal Leadership. The executive summary of that report was included in the reading material for delegates to this convention. The Diocese of Olympia was not one of the dioceses which was surveyed. Bishop Rickle called together a task force to, 1, encourage people to read the racial justice audit, and 2, help people reflect on the experience of our diocese in the light of the experience of the larger church. To that end, the task force has met and worked and talked and debated and agreed and struggled to accomplish that charge. We did create a plan, asked for time at the convention. We are asking 3 things of congregations between now and the next convention. 1, we're asking congregations to read the executive summary of the racial justice audit. It's very readable. I think that you can read it while you're maybe, having lunch, eating dinner. It is not a long survey, but I commend it to your attention. That's the first thing that we're asking congregations to do. Secondly, we're asking congregations to discuss, consider, and answer 5 questions which the task force has developed, using whatever forum works best for your congregation. Some congregations may choose to do this in a Bible study setting or an adult forum, perhaps in an Advent series or a Lenten series, perhaps with your Sacred Ground Circle or other bodies and groups in your congregation. The third thing we're asking is that you submit your responses to the Office of the Canon for Multicultural Ministry and Community Transformation by the end of June 2023. We ask that you please include the name of your congregation, how many people responded, and how you gathered your information. We will be communicating with each congregation individually concerning these 3 requests. The task force will complete and compile the information and report back to this convention next year. In order for you to experience a little bit of these questions and to interact with them, we have prepared the very questions as materials for a table discussion. We're asking that you take a look at the 5 questions, choose 1 at least to discuss at your table. We're asking that you please appoint a scribe at each table to track and make notes about your table's discussion so that those particular notes might be received by our pages and then given to the committee. And that will also be part of the report that we will provide for you in the year to come. Give it a shot. Give yourself to the conversation, and may God's Spirit lead you.
All right, before you do that, I want to just say to people that have the videos, after this presentation, we're going to go to the video, the short video of the Cathedral Foundation. And then I would like Rachel and Elise ready to give your reports that were on the agenda right after that. Okay, now back to Carla and what she just asked you to do.
And in your table discussions, you will have 10 minutes? 15 minutes? Do I get 15 minutes? 10 minutes for your table discussions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone online. I'm back. We want to facilitate some discussion around these questions.
Perfect. All right. Then I will sit down for 3 minutes. Friends, I thank you for your time that you've spent in discussion. I hope this has just done nothing more than whet your appetite for some deeper discussion in your congregations as you have the chance to share this. If you want to discuss it with one of our task force members, a number of us are already here today. And don't forget that as your friendly neighborhood canon travels around the diocese, I would be delighted to have similar discussions with you in your parishes. Don't forget to invite your friendly neighborhood canon. Have prayer book will travel. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, convention, I want you to I'm just going to point out document D.3, which is courtesy resolutions. We're probably going to vote on those in the next few minutes, so I just point them out to you. I think we can do that the old-fashioned way and make that quick, but we've actually had objections before to the courtesy resolutions, but we'll come to those in a minute, but I want to point it out since we're jumping around a little bit. But right now, we are going to see a video that was produced by the Cathedral Foundation. There is a longer version of this. I want to apologize to them and to you that you can't see that one. But I hope this whets your appetite, as Carla just said, so you can watch that longer one, and we'll get that out to you. So if we could play that video now, I would appreciate it.
Solving mysteries can be challenging, wouldn't you agree? The mystery of the Holy Trinity has always been captivating to me, and perhaps to you too. Interestingly, the Episcopal Church in Western Washington has its own Trinity-like mystery. So who's in this Trinity? Well, there's the diocese, the cathedral, and the Cathedral Foundation. You might be asking yourself, so how do they work together, yet separately? Most find it confusing, so let's connect the dots and understand this mystery better.
So, exactly what is the diocese? The diocese is all of us, all the good people and all the Episcopal congregations serving in Western Washington. The office of the bishop at the diocesan house in Seattle is just one part of that amazing whole. As bishop and chief steward, I supervise diocesan staff and clergy, guide the governing bodies, oversee the development of our diocesan budget, and represent the diocese in the international church and the worldwide Anglican community. Now, let's hear from the Dean of St. Mark's Cathedral, Steve Thomas.
Nearly a century ago, Bishop Houston and the good people of this diocese decided to create a cathedral, this cathedral, St. Mark's Cathedral. Cathedral just simply means the seat of the bishop, the gathering place for the people across the diocese to come together in times of celebration and crisis and sorrow, times for us to be together in important parts of our lives. This cathedral also serves as the spiritual home for people who worship here week by week. There are many elements to this cathedral in the way that the buildings and grounds serve all sorts of people, those who worship here weekly, those who gather across the diocese here, and even broader in the community in the various groups that call this place their home as well. With that in mind, we now want to say a bit about the Cathedral Foundation of the Diocese of Olympia and how that works in this Trinitarian way.
As the name implies, we're connected to both the diocese and the cathedral. We encourage, receive, and manage gifts and bequests earmarked for the care of the buildings and grounds of St. Mark's Cathedral, while also educating parishioners about and encouraging their stewardship of the diocese and their local congregations. Here's how we continue to provide brick and mortar funding for the cathedral campus. First, encouraging the generosity of all parishioners in the diocese and the greater Seattle community to give to our foundation fund. Those who came before us raised up much of what we have today through donations to the endowment fund for both unrestricted funds or gifts restricted for a special purpose. Second, the cathedral receives an annual disbursement from the earnings of the foundation's financial endowment fund, which is held securely in the diocesan investment fund. And third, we provide quick access to funds in our capital reserve fund to help with urgent, unbudgeted needs of the cathedral's buildings and grounds.
To help individuals understand planned giving to any Episcopal entity, you can help by making an annual gift or using your will to arrange a legacy gift after your death. And how do you do that? There are two ways. Specifically designate your annual gift to the Cathedral Foundation of the Diocese of Olympia to be used for maintenance of the cathedral's buildings and grounds, or to St. Mark's Cathedral for unrestricted or restricted use, or to the Diocese of Olympia for restricted or unrestricted use. Secondly, you can allocate a legacy gift through your last will and testament to the foundation, the cathedral, or the diocese, through one, a gift of specific dollar amount or a percentage of your assets. Two, an offering from your retirement account by creating a qualified charitable distribution, or as you may have heard it called, QCD. And three, a gift of stock. You'll want to consult a financial advisor for advice on how to do this. You can also give the same type of annual or legacy gift to your local congregation.
All right, let's thank the good work of our Cathedral Foundation. They do an excellent job. And now I call on the Reverend Elise Johnstone, who's representing the Personnel Commission, to provide this convention a progress report on 2021 Resolution Number 6, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice in Diocesan Clergy Pay Scale. Please welcome Elise Johnstone.
I apologize, I'm going to talk fast. I'm Elise Johnstone from St. John the Baptist in West Seattle, and on behalf of your Diocesan Personnel Commission, I'm summarizing the Commission's update to Resolution 6 regarding equity, inclusion, and justice in the Diocesan Clergy Pay Scale. A full update is included in the Convention documents. The Personnel Commission embraces the vision and spirit of Resolution 6 as it attempts to address implicit bias and structural injustice in clergy compensation. The 111th Convention asked our Commission to create mandatory and advisory policies regarding clergy compensation and benefits that will apply to all priests in the diocese, whether serving in missions, parishes, bishops' designated mission stations, or any other specialized ministry. The canonical scope of the Personnel Commission currently includes recommending policies for parishes and missions. In light of Resolution 6, we look forward to the guidance from the Committee on Constitution and Canons in regard to the possibility of widening the sphere of the Commission's role as it pertains to mission stations and specialized ministries. Resolution 6 also called on personnel to develop advisory policies to ensure the availability of medical benefits to those serving in mission stations and specialized ministries. Eligibility for the medical benefits in the Episcopal Church is established by and may be changed by acts of General Convention. Currently, a church employee, clergy or lay, who works 29 hours a week or more must have insurance provided to them through the denominational health plan, the DHP. If an employee works between 19 and up to 29 hours a week, they may purchase medical benefits themselves, and the church entity is encouraged to contribute to that expense. Thus, if a church employee works fewer than 19 hours a week, they are not eligible for the DHP. Since the adoption of the DHP about a decade ago, Episcopal Church entities cannot pay premiums for insurance coverage outside of the DHP. So what can we do to change eligibility for health insurance? This convention can propose a resolution to General Convention to lower the threshold to allow eligibility of medical benefits to church employees who work fewer than 1,000 hours annually. Your Personnel Commission will explore this option in 2023. Finally, the resolution asked us to engage with the Church Pension Fund regarding mechanisms for inclusion of priests in these ministries in the Clergy Pension Fund. Participation in the Church Pension Group, CPG, depends upon contributions to the Clergy Pension Plan. This means that clergy need to be paid some amount of salary, which is then reported to CPG so that a pension contribution can be collected. A good example of how this could work for clergy in mission stations and specialized ministries is laid out in this convention's Resolution 3 regarding a minimum compensation for deacons. This same proposal would work for these clergy and would give them access to some of the benefits of CPG. As the Personnel Commission looks forward to our work in 2023, we have identified at least 2 areas of focus: investigate other diocesan mechanisms to pay non-stipendiary and mission station clergy and those engaged in other specialized ministries, and to explore alternative funding resources to make healthcare more accessible to eligible clergy. Thank you for empowering us to dismantle structural injustices, and we are glad to be serving with you.
Thank you, Elise, very much. So I call on now the Reverend Rachel Tabor Hamilton, representing the task group, to provide this convention with a progress report on 2021 Resolution Number 4, supporting and conducting diocesan research on indigenous boarding schools. Please welcome Rachel to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, Bishop, and thank you to the convention. The team came together over the past year and has done the research to initial discovery. And I do want to say particular thanks to archivist Diane Wells, who spent dozens of hours combing through various diocesan and parish reports, including Spirit of Missions annual report. So thank you for that, Diane. Through that discovery, we see that the following Indigenous boarding schools operated within our diocese: Tulalip School, Tulalip Reservation, for 75 years. Puyallup, known as Cushman School, Tacoma on Puyallup Reservation, operating for 60 years. St. George's School in Federal Way, operating for 48 years. And the Chemawa School, actually located in Salem, Oregon, operated for 142 years and is still open today. And many of the Indigenous children from across Puget Sound were sent and are still sent to this school. Also, the Stickney Mission School in Bellingham, operating for 17 years. There were multiple day schools organized for the Makah, the Skokomish, the Chehalis tribes. None of these were organized by the Episcopal Church. However, it was very common for volunteers, such as educators, to supply at these schools. And we hope our continuing research will help us identify this. In May of 2022, Deb Helland, the Secretary of the Interior, released the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative Investigative Report, and it details initial nationwide research into boarding schools and sets toward future actions that we hope to parallel. It demonstrates the leadership role taken by the federal government in partnership with faith communities. The research team will continue our work focusing on the Olympia Diocesan Archives and is not the subject of federal research, so this will not be duplicative of that. And the research findings will further be presented at our 2023 convention. I would also add that the General Convention of the Church, which met this year in Baltimore, also passed a resolution to open up the research to all the Episcopal Church archives. And I've been appointed as one of the new members to the Episcopal Church archives to help lead this work. So I hope to be including some of that work into our report for 2023. Thank you so much for your time and your support of this incredibly important work.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everybody that served on this committee, and the work is ongoing. We definitely appreciate it. We're now going to go to courtesy resolutions. I pointed that out to you before. It's D3 is the document. And without objection, we will adopt these as submitted. If you do object, please enter through your keypad or device your name, congregation name, and city, or just say you object. And otherwise, we're going to see if there is any objection to adopting these. All right, hearing and seeing none, the courtesy resolutions are adopted. And I think we're ready for a report of whatever ballot we're on. I don't know which one it is, but the report of the ballots. And we will do elections again right after that, so let's have the report first. Secretary. Okay, I'm going to dispense with the reading of these votes because we're running out of time. The parliamentarian is going to tell me who's been elected and who hasn't, or we'll be left with the list and we'll keep voting. Malcolm McLaren has been elected as a clergy deputy. We have no other elections, so we will do a vote in a little bit without Malcolm in there because he's been elected. None.
Judy's elected.
All right, on this one, Judy Andrews has been elected and Sherilyn King has been elected. So we have two. And Terran Sweeney Bender has also been elected. So 3 elections in the lay ballot. Very good. That's all we have to report at this point. So we're going to now vote again. And we'll be voting on those deputies. I think there's maybe a few other elections. Commission on Ministry. So you might get your devices on. Okay. We're going to remind you, turn off your other devices while we're doing this so we can keep the bandwidth for these devices that we're voting. And I'm going to see, does Katrina need it to say anything else? All right. Very good. I do feel the need to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking in person and online about why Rachel Tabor Hamilton would have to be on the list if she was elected Vice President of the House of Deputies. She has to be on the list because she's the Vice President for this triennium, but she still, to stay in that office, has to be elected to be a deputy. So that's why she's on that list. All right. Are we ready to vote? You just couldn't let me go easy, could you? Just kind of pound it in, you know. Could I get Jed Fox to come up here and be ready, because we're going to go to resolutions if we can't get going on this. We're going to try that. All right, Commission on Ministry, ballot 1. We have Keith Dorwick and Emily Austin. I'm going to, is everybody ready? Get your devices on. And I will declare, of course, you're going to vote for 1. I declare the polls open. Ten seconds. We will report this out later, not right now. But you have a few more seconds. Polls are closed. If we can go to the next ballot that we have. Standing Committee, lay representative, you vote for one. I didn't think all three of these were back. They are? Okay, all three are back on there. You will vote for one. The polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We can go to the next ballot. All right, Diocesan Council, lay at large. We're going to vote for one. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. I'm supposed to be neutral, but I just, as I walk out the door, say, maybe you want to change this, having to vote 4 times. Just a suggestion. But if we can have the next ballot. That's the last one we have right now? Okay. All right, we're going to move to resolutions, I believe, as we calculate these. General Convention, okay. Are we going to do that one now? All right, we're not going to do that one now. I call on Jed Fox for resolutions. We'll see if we can do this the old-fashioned way.
Thank you, Bishop. And I am still looking forward to your address, although someone at lunch pointed out that you might feel more inclined to actually quote Bilbo Baggins in your farewell address and say that you like less than half of us half as much as we deserve. The Committee on Resolutions moves resolution number 3, considering adoption of a season of creation, a creation care climate justice initiative. Resolved that the 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia join other Episcopal dioceses in considering adoption of a season of creation. And be it further resolved that the Diocese of Olympia incorporate this 5-week season into its diocesan calendar for promotion and education in our diocese. And be it further resolved that this convention commend to and encourage all congregations in our diocese to study and creatively adapt the season of creation to celebrate and better understand creation in their locality. The committee recommends do pass.
Thank you, Jed. The resolution number 3 is on the floor. It doesn't require a second. Is there discussion? All right, we see none. Therefore, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of resolution number 3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Jed?
The committee moves resolution number 4, Creation Justice Pledge, a Creation Care Climate Justice Initiative. Resolved that the 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia recommend the study, reflection, education in congregations about the Creation Justice Pledge, and encourage congregants and congregations to study the pledge, adapt it to their local context, and adopt it. And be it further resolved that the Diocese of Olympia consider providing a web page for those adopting the pledge, and which would provide resources for assisting in determining their personal and congregational carbon footprint. The committee recommends do pass.
Thank you, Jed. It requires no second. Is there discussion?
Actually, I have a point of order.
Yes.
Nigel Tabor Hamilton, St. John's, Snohomish. The creation pledge in my documents is Resolution 5, not Resolution 3. So we voted on the creation pledge. It's just identified as the wrong resolution number. Season, I'm sorry, creation season.
Was anybody unclear on what they were voting on? Yeah, we acknowledge it was wrong. I'm waiting for what other surprises are coming, but so the number was wrong, but everybody, I feel comfortable we did what we needed to do. Prayerfully, we'll get this one right. What number are we on?
In the report, I believe what I just read is resolution number 4 is actually resolution number 5.
Okay, 5.
So it's number 5 in your reports, number 4 in your hearts.
All right. Is there discussion on Creation Justice Pledge? All right, we see none, and on Zoom either. All in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Jed?
The committee moves resolution. On my script, it says number 5. In the report that you got, it says number 3. Establishing minimum clergy compensation regarding compensation for deacons. Resolved that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia affirms that it is the policy of the Diocese of Olympia that the diocese provide deacons and non-stipendiary priests who are currently serving in parishes on a regularly scheduled basis for a minimum of 5 consecutive months or more, have a current letter of agreement on file with the bishop's office, and are under the age of 72, with a minimum of $25 per month as remuneration. And be it further resolved that the diocese also provide the required contribution of 18% to the church pension fund for the benefit of the deacons and non-stipendiary priests. The committee recommends do pass.
So it doesn't require a second. I don't know that it needs explanation. Maybe this was given, but since I serve on the church pension board, I want to say that we worked on this in the last 3 years to try to find ways that deacons and non-stipendiary priests and others like that could actually benefit from some of the benefits of the church pension group, even if they don't get a big pension at the end of their career. Because by law, they cannot be given those benefits without being part of the plan. This will make them part of the plan, so that they can participate in wellness and different things of that nature. So we will be not the first diocese that have done this very similar resolution. About at least 11 others have passed it already. And it was designed so that we could get more people the benefits of the pension fund, even if they're not making a salary, which the pension fund is based on. So we will take discussion now. Microphone 2.
R.C. Laird, St. John, San Juan, Olympia. Right Reverend Sir, I wonder if you could offer explanation, given your being on the pension fund board, as to whether the phrase "and are under the age of 72" is in there for a technical reason required by the pension fund.
It's canonical.
Okay.
It's canonical. It is for you too. 72 is the required retirement age.
But if I'm not mistaken, sir, you can authorize deacons to continue serving after age
Yes,
72?
but they're outside of the pension after that. They will be
Okay.
in it, but they will get the benefits, but they don't have to pay it anymore.
That answers my question. I'm just standing up for
they're
deacons.
out of it at that point. You will be too. Yeah, I will be too. You'll still get your pay, whatever that was, but you're still in it.
Yeah, I have a deacon who doesn't fall into that group but is serving actively and faithfully at St. John's. And
Right.
I'm just saying, I like Terry and I'm glad she's here, and I think there's other deacons that fall into that group too, and I'm not afraid to say it.
I love Terry too. Where is Terry? Good for you. Is there any other discussion on this? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Is there more, Jed?
This is our last one, and it is number 6, both in your report and in your hearts. The committee moves to refer resolution number 6, increasing the financial support and commitment for the BIPOC Ministry Fund, to the Diocesan Council. Resolved that this convention increase the funding specifically designated for just compensation of BIPOC leaders of primarily ethnic, multicultural, and multilingual congregations from 2% to 5% of the diocesan operating budget effective 2024. And be it further resolved that in the event that primary liturgical, pastoral, and administrative leadership of an ethnic /BIPOC parish, ministry, or designated mission station is carried out by a designated lay pastoral leader, that such leader shall be eligible for the funding of the BMF. Again, I want to reiterate, because this is a little bit different than what we've been doing, we are moving that this be referred to Diocesan Council.
All right, thank you, Jed. And I'm going to recognize Carla at microphone 2 to speak to this. She asked for that, and she's a sponsor of this, so I give her the floor.
So, Carla Robinson, your canon for Multicultural Ministries and Community Transformation. I rise to speak in favor of the motion to refer. Yes, I am at the right one. The resolution addresses the very real need for funding to pay clergy of color serving our ethnic congregations. In previous convention, we have already committed to setting aside 2% of the operating budget for that purpose, and that remains. Circles of Color proposed that as a way of jump-starting the funding process. In terms of the funding process itself, Circles wants, in the words of the song from Hamilton, to be in the room where it happens. We have created a canon position. As canon, I have significant input and influence in the budget, in the diocesan budgetary process from the first moment. Also, Circles has been instrumental in placing people of color on diocesan council, including 2 of whom Bishop Gregg appointed today, the Reverends Jesus Reyes and Malcolm McLaren. As a result, there will be more people of color on the Budget and Finance Committee. Also, I have the added privilege of sitting with your executive team, which discusses finances throughout the year. All this to say that I am convinced that we have what we need to achieve the funding goal of this resolution through our normal budgetary process, and that work has already begun.
Thank you, Carla. Is there any further discussion? I do want to say, when you vote, you're voting on the motion to refer. You're not voting whether you agree with the resolution or you think it's good or not good. You're voting to refer it so that it can be taken up that way. I just want to be clear about what you're voting on. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor of referring this resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So ordered. Thank you. And thank you, Jed, and the Resolutions Committee, too. Thank you. I am told that we are ready to report the second or third ballot or whatever number it is. All right. We're going to report a ballot right now. Wrong, we're going to take a ballot, I guess. All right. This is for General Convention again. We're going to do one. Elect one. We've been going through this. We have 3 remaining. I believe this is clergy, correct? We have 3 remaining. And that's good. They've taken Malcolm off that list because he was elected. So everybody on this list is valid to vote for. You have your devices ready. Polls are open. Vote for 1. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We will move to the second selection. Same way, do not vote for the same person or you will invalidate your vote. And the polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We're going to move to the third selection, clergy deputy for General Convention. There's the list. Polls are open. Yep. 10 seconds. Polls are closed. Thank you. Now we're going to move to lay deputy, and we only have 1 to elect. We elected 3 the first time. So as soon as we have that up, we will take that vote. Okay, we're going to take 1 ballot. This is the only ballot. We need to elect 1 more person. Now, there's some people on here that were elected last time, so you need to be conscious of that. If I remember right, it was Judy Andrews, Sherilyn King, and Taryn Sweeney Bender. So unlike the last list, you have on here people that were elected last time. So you would not want to vote for those 3. Judy Andrews, Sherilyn King, or Taryn Sweeney Bender, or you're wasting your vote. The rest of them you can vote for, and the polls are open now. Ten seconds. We're going to give a little more because the online folks are having some struggles. All right, polls are closed. Do we have any more ballots right now? No. Okay. If Doug Oles will come forward, the moment some of you have been waiting for, we will go to Constitution and Canons and attempt to do this the old-fashioned way, perhaps, too. Doug, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Isn't it great to have a live convention? Realizing that in this audience there are different levels of being alive, but nonetheless. Now, consistent with the theme of this year's convention, many of you may be thinking that this would be a good time to take a contemplative stroll in a spiritual garden. But this is not that time. This is the report of the Committee on Constitution and Canons, and I remind you, this is not a Hilton Garden Inn. Now, last year, our committee presented its report to convention on the feast day of St. Abraham the Great of Kidnia. And I could not resist pointing out that I was not Kidnia, because Abraham was Kidnia. Now, believe it or not, a month after convention, one of the deputies in this room, and you know who you are, wrote a letter complaining to the bishop that I had insensitively made fun of the good saint's name. And the bishop, exercising his traditional role as an intermediary, forwarded the complaint to me without comment. To paraphrase scripture, some of the seeds of good humor fell on stony ground and were choked by thorns. I responded by pointing out that the well-intentioned deputy who complained to the bishop had not been listening carefully. As we say on the Canons Committee, read the fine print. Kidnia was not the saint's name. It was the name of a village where Abraham was sent to do his mission. By the way, it was kind of a tough mission because it apparently involved destroying pagan idols, in return for which he was kicked out of town. So when a town is named Kidnia, what kind of a reception do you expect? And isn't it okay to criticize? Now, this year we meet on the feast day of a different venerable saint, whose name was Saint Apollo of Baywit. Not Baywatch, Baywit. Apollo was a monk of the late 4th century, and Baywit is a crumbling ruin in the Egyptian desert. With a name like Apollo, the saint may have surprised his contemporaries by advocating for Christianity. Now, the records of the Desert Fathers record that he lived by himself in the desert for 40 years, a great way to clear the mind from cell phones and other chatter. And when he was 80 years old, beyond the pension retirement age of our diocese, St. Apollo established a monastery. And according to the archive, St. Apollo's monastery was noted because he managed to collect, and I quote, 500 perfect men, almost all of whom having the power to work miracles, unquote. How things have changed. As at least half of you are well aware, it's not so easy to find a perfect man these days, much less one who is capable of working miracles. But we can still aspire to create perfection in the little circles of our personal mission. I, for example, have not spent 40 years in the desert, but I've spent almost 40 years on the Committee of Constitution and Canons, which some people might say is similar. On our committee, we collectively seek perfection in the wording of our diocesan documents, and you spend the other 364 days of the year reading them with interest. Now, you all play an essential role in this process, the humble role and holy service of voting yes on our recommended changes. Now, this year, if you looked at the A1 program for today, you'll see that this segment, this line item, is described as debate and action. I'm actually hoping we can focus more on action and less on debate, because our committee, believe it or not, we have extensive debate about these things that we put before you every year. We argue back and forth about commas and which words could be eliminated to make things more succinct. And so we try to do that phased for you, so that all you have to do is review and approve and enjoy. Now, it is, in my mind, better with paper, and I'm very pleased to see that we've gone back to these after several years of not having them. Although now I found out why perhaps we departed from these papers, since they have similar color density and may therefore be unhelpful to some people. But if you look at the alternative, you check this machine out, what it says on it is that it's option finder. That's what it says on here. You read your machine, you're not going to find any option in here. So I will give you an option. Actually, I'll give you 4 packages of this year's report to deal with, and I hope we can vote on them in those 4 packages. As you know, when we amend the Constitution, we have to have 2 votes at 2 consecutive conventions. So I'm going to begin with a series of things that are being voted on for the first of 2 times. And I always encourage people to feel free to vote yes, because you can always vote no yes next year. And the first subject that we're voting on deals with mission stations. And Elise Johnston already mentioned mission stations to you. And as you know, we have mission stations, but they don't exist in our canons. And one of the functions of our committee is to try to legitimate the things that have been done in our absence. So in Constitution Article 6, there is, for example, a provision that talks about the notice that has to be given of this convention. And it says that you deliver it to parishes and missions. So we add the words for this year, and mission stations, right? Not to suggest that any mission should be stationary, but mission stations will now be mentioned, which means they'll now get notice. Then in Article 7 of the Constitution, we list lay members of convention, and there we also add a new subpart, including lay members representing mission stations, so they will be there. We also eliminate a duplicative reference to communicants, because there at the moment are 2, and you only need to have 1 in terms of describing who qualifies to be a lay member of convention. Those are the 3 mission station related amendments to the Constitution being voted on the first time, and I move them for your adoption.
All right, a motion to adopt changes to the Constitution on first reading or on the floor. Is there discussion? Doesn't need a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. We're going to wait just a minute for online to be able to cast their votes. All right, the motion passes.
The second category of amendments to the Constitution being offered for the first time deals with Episcopal vacancies, because they do occasionally occur. And once again, we're doing catch-up because we didn't get an advance warning this year about what was going to happen. So we are at least now amending the Constitution to provide in a little more detail for what happens if the bishop is unfortunately resigns or leaves, takes an extended vacation, or is kidnapped by someone. Right now, our current canon provides for a coadjutor or a suffragan bishop, but it does not provide for something which exists in the canons of the broader church, which is called a bishop provisional. You know, we try to show our Old English roots by putting the adjective second. You know, it somehow sounds more cool. You know, it's like the meal afternoon. But anyway, so a bishop provisional means a provisional bishop who's somebody that can be brought in to exercise essentially the full duties of the bishop on a short term. It's often somebody brought in from another diocese on a temporary basis. Unlike an assisting bishop who exercises only the sort of episcopal duties as opposed to the governing body duties. So a bishop provisional has a broader authority than an assistant bishop, and it makes sense to mention both of them in here, particularly if there is a bishop provisional who comes in to join us at some point. It would be nice if he or she were here legally. So that is the new Section 6 of Article 4. There is also a change to Article 6, which simply points out that special meetings of the convention, right now it says they can only be called by the bishop, right? But if the bishop leaves, then they can't be called by anybody. So we are adding or by a 2/3 vote of the standing committee, so that if we are in a vacuum, standing committee can call special meetings and you can all come back as often as they please. Thirdly, in Article 10 of the Constitution, we have an amendment which again adds Bishop Provisional as one of the people who can exercise the episcopal authority in the absence of the normal diocesan bishop before it punts over to standing committee, which is what happens if you have no bishop. So we are adding that there. And then finally in Article 19, which again lists, it has to do with the election of a new bishop and talks about how that will be done at an annual meeting of convention. And since it lists the different kinds of bishop that you can elect at that meeting, we need to add Bishop Provisional as one of those kinds. That's the amendment. That's the set of amendments which basically add Bishop Provisional to our set of options. And I propose those amendments to you for first-time passage as amendment to our Constitution.
All right, a motion to adopt changes to the Constitution on first reading or on the floor regarding episcopal vacancies. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we will go to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. Thank you.
So I guess the people online are okay with that.
I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Are we waiting? There could be a groundswell of objection among the absent. But the absent should be glad because they didn't get one of these.
It was unanimous online too, you'll be glad to know.
Now we move to the second vote on amendments to Constitution, and I always encourage people that they can vote for those without concern because they were already passed at a previous convention. Now the first one has to do with Article 1 to the Constitution, which refers to the Episcopal Church in the United States of America as being our name. And guess what? As usual, we're playing catch up. That's not our name anymore. Why? Because we have found a way to maintain growth in the church by bringing in people from all around the world. So it is no longer appropriate to refer to, we now simply say the Episcopal Church. We delete the words in the United States of America. We also, at the request of some members of our committee, which didn't necessarily include me, where we define terms, we says, hereafter we may refer to the diocese as the diocese, and they wanted to insert, or this diocese. Okay, was that really necessary? Anyway, that's going to be one of those things, so that's in there. There's also in Article 3 to the Constitution, it talks about the authority of the diocese being exercised by the bishop, and we've now added a little clarifying language to say, then that as it may be assigned to a coadjutor or to convention or the standing committee. In other words, it is possible for the bishop's authority to be assigned to a coadjutor if you have one. That's just a clarification. It's not a substantive change to what we have now. Article 4 in the Constitution is called the bishop, even though now we've made clear that there are all kinds of bishops. But anyway, the bishop, we now add a new section 5 that talks about the fact that when the ecclesiastical authority is temporarily transferred to one of these other kinds of bishop, and where there is neither a bishop coadjutor nor a suffragant bishop, then the authority shall pass to the standing committee. It seemed appropriate to put it in the canons as well as in the Constitution about how standing committee basically fills the vacuum if you don't have a bishop. If nothing else, it makes it possible for us to amend it now only on 1 year's notice instead of 2. But anyway, that is what that is. There's also a couple of minor wording amendments, like referring to St. Mark's. Instead of calling it St. Mark's Church, it's now being called St. Mark's Parish. We should have put something in about, an address where you can send donations to the foundation. But anyway, there's that. And then somebody wanted to have, in Article 10, the wording saying that members of the standing committee can run again if at least a year has passed since the end of their last term. And however, we said that if somebody only served a part of a term, then they don't have to have the year off. So they can come back. And the part of the term is something less than or no longer than 2 years. So those are the tinkering amendments being proposed for second vote to our Constitution, and I propose them.
All right. Motion to adopt changes to the Constitution on second reading are on the floor. Is there any discussion? Online and in the room, I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to wait just a minute for online. All right, very good. It passes.
And now we move to the fourth category, the changes to the canons, which can be approved by a single year's vote of both orders voting together. And those we have, they, however, are on the same subjects that you have already approved today. So I think they won't create a lot of problem for you. One is in Canon 2, Section 1, which is called Lay Members of Convention. We talk about how the various people that voting rights can be granted to, and so we've added mission stations as being one of the entities to whom voting rights can be granted at convention. In what you've passed already, they're already guaranteed a seat and being here at convention, but for voting rights, it will be on the list of people that can be referred by vote at the beginning of convention. Secondly, we added a new Canon 2, Section 3, which provides for mission stations to have annual meetings where they select representatives, because if you're going to create an entity like mission stations, you have to create some kind of process for them to operate. And so that's what that's for. In Canon 6, Section 3, used to talk about members of the diocesan council having to be members of a parish or mission. We now changed that to congregation because there are, with the mission stations, there's now something other than a parish or mission. So it's a broader term. Same kind of an amendment to Canon 11, which was previously, well, is still called missions. We would now re-entitle it Missions and Mission Statements, and it would provide how mission stations can be created, which in this case, the way they have been created already, is to be created by the bishop, certifying them to take effect. So those are the changes to the canons that are proposed for a vote by this body.
All right, thank you. Motion to adopt changes to the canons are on the floor. Is there discussion? All right, microphone 4.
Said mission statements. Did you mean mission stations? And
yes, I meant mission stations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's listening.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let's wait a minute for online. So ordered.
All I can add is, incongruous though it may sound, please don't shoot the cannons.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Constitutional and Canons Committee. All right, we're going to move to a report of the ballots, and then we're going to take another ballot. As everything today, we're not doing anything, I say. Are we going to stand?
We're doing it, just not when he says it.
Okay, I'm going to call on Vicki Day to come up, Standing Committee President. And I want to, before she starts, just say how thankful I am for her. There is no one person that took my announcement harder than she did because of what she's about to explain to you right now. But she has done it very, very well, and we had the right person in the right place. So please welcome Vicki Day and thank her for her leadership.
Good afternoon, everyone, but I didn't do it alone, and so right now I'd like the other members of the current standing committee to stand, please, so that you can acknowledge their hard work as well. Jennifer, Elise, Carol, Stephen, Suneko. To adapt an old song, what a year this has been. The standing committee has long talked about our role of being the ones who wait. Waiting until we are called upon to act. Well, in July, we certainly found out what that meant. But before I talk about the second half of our year, let me tell you a little bit about our regular work in 2022. As a reminder, the Standing Committee serves as a council of advice for the bishop and becomes the diocesan ecclesiastical authority in the bishop's absence. We make decisions about the sale, encumbrance, and disposal of real property belonging to the parishes of the diocese. We interview and make recommendations to the bishop on candidates for holy orders, and the consent of the standing committee is required for ordination. We also are called upon to give or withhold consent when bishops are called in other dioceses. So we did our usual work. We certified for the transitional diaconate and later approved for priesthood a total of 11 outstanding individuals. We gave consents on 11 bishops and withheld consent on 1 bishop in other dioceses. We also approved financial actions by parishes as they related to the loans or use and sale of property. We did that 5 times. We had some internal work to do, so when Carla became canon for Multicultural Ministries and Community Transformation, we accepted her resignation, and we elected the Reverend Canon Elise Johnston to fill out the term until this convention. We also accepted the resignation of Steve Danzy from the committee. He retired, so we felt like it was fair to let him go, but we didn't appoint anyone because he retired so close to convention. As a committee, we also undertook the work of forming ourselves as leaders. We did this by taking the intercultural development inventory as a committee, had it interpreted for us, and then included reflections on how those intercultural factors influence our work as a committee during each of our meetings. And then everything shifted on July 15th. Our meetings went from once a month to twice a month. We have learned a lot. Did you know there's subtle differences between the Episcopal Church Constitution and canons and those of the Diocese of Olympia? Thank you, Judy, for your patience and expertise as we tried to navigate learning. I don't know that it's noun versus adjective. Words matter in titles. Diocesan, suffragan, coadjutor, assistant, assisting, not to mention provisional. And bishop always comes first. I even had to edit my speech today because I forget sometimes. A delegate mentioned in one of our sessions yesterday that a reference guide for all the terms used in convention would be helpful. The standing committee talked about that a lot too. We would love that. So after July 15th, we as the standing committee had to break our work down into steps. First, we want to assure that the diocese is held carefully and with great expertise during this transition time, not just by the standing committee, the governing bodies writ large, the diocesan staff, the clergy, and lay folks alike, but also a bishop provisional. I'm deliberately listing all of us as playing a role because we are all players in the next step. During the transition time, we have an opportunity to create a space between the bishopric of Bishop Rickle and the next bishop diocesan so that we can embrace the next era of a new ecclesiastical leader. That is why we today will ask you as the convention body to step into the transition process with a resolution. After convention, the next phase of our work as a standing committee, in conjunction with diocesan council, will begin in earnest. That is the search for the next bishop diocesan. It won't be fast, folks. We hope you'll agree that a prayerful, deliberate process will be best. Expect it to take 18 to 24 months. That's what we're being told. So now we ask you, as this convention body, to step into this time of transition with us with the following resolution. On behalf of the Standing Committee, I move that this 112th Convention of the Diocese of Olympia place itself under the provisional charge of the Most Reverend Melissa Skelton, effective January 1, 2023, or as soon as practical thereafter, until such time as a new bishop diocesan is elected and ordained, or until this act is revoked by convention.
All right, thank you, Vicki. This is a vote by orders, and it takes 2/3 majority in each order for it to fly. So we're going to vote clergy first, and we're going to try this the old-fashioned way first. So clergy only, If you vote yes on this motion, please raise your hand. All right. If you vote no, raise your hand. It passes that order. Laity. Okay, wait a minute. We're waiting for the online. %. All right, lay order. All those for, raise your hand. All right, against, raise your hand. So ordered. I would like the Most Reverend Melissa Skelton to stand up over there. So Melissa's happy, you're happy, but nobody's happier than Vicki Day, I want to tell you. And I just want to say, too, I really do, after 15 years, standing committees and bishops sometimes are at odds. I would say that in 15 years I've never been at odds, that I felt like anyway, and that they have always been huge supports to me, and they were able to be counsels of advice, which were greatly, greatly needed. So I want to thank this standing committee that you met, but all the standing committees of this 15 years. They were fabulous. Any of them could have done what they're doing now, but I want to thank them all right now. Thank you. All right, the theme of this convention is voting, and we're going to do it again. So I think we're ready for a ballot, so get a report of the ballot, okay? Good, I really like the reports better than voting, so let's do that. While we're doing that, the General Convention deputation, if you're here and you'd like to say a few things about General Convention, if you'll come up here and be ready for that, that may be something we do in between these ballots. All right, Secretary, do you want to read these? We'll go back to that.
For Commission on Ministry from the Clergy Order, Emily Austin, 167. Keith Dorwick, 52.
Emily Austin is elected.
Standing Committee for the Lay Representative. From the clergy, Tina has 24. From the laity, 9. Schuyler has 52 clergy, 24 lay. Carol Loudenbach, 103 clergy, 55 lay votes.
Carol Loudenbach is elected.
For Diocesan Council, lay at large, Stuart Case, 62, Karen Sjostrom, 174, Mandy Whitaker, 78.
Karen Sjostrom is elected. Now we're going to move to deputation vote, actually report, I think, and see where we are with that. Okay, Rachel Tabor Hamilton has been elected, and we're moving the rest to the next ballot. There's no election on this one, so we will prepare a ballot. Okay, is the General Convention deputation here? No.
Point of order.
Yes.
One of the tools when we're voting that's really helpful is to be able to see the results of the previous ballots. Those numbers are so tiny, I know I can't see them from here. So we don't know what the trend is. We don't know which way the votes are moving, and we don't have the tools we need to decide whether to change our votes on the next ballot.
Okay, we'll read them.
Thank you.
Secretary?
Yes, for Judy Andrews, we just want to read the ones that were still left in there. Is that not correct? So
On this
Judy
one, it'd be
Andrews
all
was
of them.
already. On
Yeah,
this one we're reading,
that's right. Not
Judy
if they've
Andrews
been
was
elected.
already elected. SUNY Bannon, clergy, there were 6 votes and 29 lay. Alyssa Johnson had 5 clergy and 11 lay. Cheryline was already elected. Michael Sewer had 29 clergy and 55 lay. Karen was already elected. Lillian Springer, 17 clergy and 21 lay. And April Thompson, 33 clergy and 37 lay. Karen Shostrom, 12 clergy and 49 lay. Oh,
Let's go
I'm
back
sorry.
to the clergy so we can read the numbers for the clergy as well, if we can.
Yeah, that's why they just had me reread it. Thank you. For the General Convention clergy second ballot, Keith Dorwick had 4 clergy and 16 lay. Sabeth Fitzgibbons had 45 clergy and 72 lay. Ted Fox had 22 clergy and 74 lay. Ruth Ann Garcia, 36 clergy and 58 lay. Edmund Harris, 20 clergy and 27 lay. Elise Johnstone, 27 clergy and 67 lay. David Marshall, 21 clergy, 67 lay. Nick Mather, 24 clergy and 58 lay. I believe I read David Marshall's incorrectly. That was 21 clergy and 32 lay. Britt Olson, 42 clergy and 67 lay. Rachel Table Hammerson was elected. Hamilton, 66 and 150.
All right, thank you. So we will be going to third ballot, and on this one, it is whoever has the majority will be elected the 4th deputy, and or whatever number we have. Then we still have a vote on the alternates, but that is 1 vote, and the top 4 will be the alternates. So we have several votes yet to go. Are we ready? All right. So we're going to, this is the first selection. I think this is the only one for this. Is that right? We've elected 3. So this will be the only one. These, I think, are the ones who have not been elected yet. So you're going to vote for 1. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. All right, we'll go to the next ballot, which I believe will be clergy. Is that correct? Okay, this is the list of clergy deputy candidates. I believe we still need to elect 2, so this will be the first selection. Vote for one of these people listed. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We'll move to the second selection. Second selection is up there. Vote for a different person than the first time. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. I think that concludes our voting right now. Okay, I'm going to invite General Convention deputies, if they want to either come to a mic on the floor or come up here and share a little bit about General Convention this summer, you are welcome to do so. A couple of them are sitting next to me. They may want to as well. Rachel is right there.
Thank you. There were some rather surprising, exciting things, but there were so many things that got passed on what's called the consent calendar in order to sort of speed up the process. And the challenges of sort of working up to convention was a moving target in terms of what were going to be the protocols and who could come. And but as the Executive Council recently kind of had a report from the Secretary of General Convention that talked about, we actually were able to renegotiate several contracts for more minimal impact on our finances. Now, at convention, I was really, really delighted to see all the resolutions that had come to creation care and environmental care. All of them passed, and many of those are very specific, one of which is pointed directly to our bishops, saying, y'all need to become familiar with the environmental projects going on in your state and your area that are specific to your biomes, and be part of helping to educate the people so that it's the whole church participating throughout the Episcopal Church internationally in these efforts. And then the one thing that somebody asked me is when the Sergeant at Arms came to escort the Vice President of the House of Deputies up to the head table, I had no idea I was about to be escorted, and neither did our deputation, which is why Doug wasn't there on the floor at the moment, and why Jedediah appeared in khaki shorts, just so you know.
You all look great to me up there. I tell you, it was fabulous. Are there others who want to speak? I think Judy will.
Is it on? I think I just wanted to add a note about the new Safe Church programs that are being developed by the Episcopal Church, and that those were all approved by General Convention, which was wonderful. In addition, there's a model sexual harassment policy that was approved that I would really encourage you all to read. It's very well done, and I think will be helpful for our church.
And I want to say Judy is instrumental in those. And as is so often the case, we take her for granted here, but she is well known in the church. I can't tell you how many bishops will tell me, I wish I had your chancellor. So, but I always tell them they can't have her. She has been a rock for me, and but she is just so renowned in our Episcopal Church. So thank you, Judy, for making an impact on this whole church, not just I think what I would say, some of it you've heard, I mean, I kind of liked the shorter convention. I actually believe we got some things done much more efficiently than we do when we spend 12 days and a lot more money. What I was hoping for is maybe some hybrid between that the next time, but it doesn't look like we're headed that way, but maybe we could. But I was really amazed at how everybody worked together in a very difficult time to get a lot accomplished in what was really only 4 days of legislation, really. We might have had a little bit more time, but I thought that was very well done and difficult to pull off after so much time away. I guess the next challenge is that we're only 2 years away from the next General Convention because we had a 4-year interim waiting for that one to happen. So that'll be an interesting catch-up as well. Is there anyone else who, from General Convention Deputation, wants to say anything? Then I'm going to invite you. Oh, Doug, go ahead.
Well, just two things. This is a big year of transition at the larger church, which we used to call the National Church. The president of the House of Deputies and the vice president, after long terms, both retired. And of course, our Rachel Tabor Hamilton is a big star because she's now the new vice president and will be known for a lot of people and was also a leader in some of the resolutions that were passed. But something else I just want to mention is a reminder, because I haven't heard his name, I can never hear his name enough times, is how great our presiding bishop is, Michael Curry. And at these general conventions, he gives sermons that are just barn burners. And if you haven't listened into them, I'm sure they're all available online someplace. And he's a wonderful leader. He's an inspiring person. And, you know, when we always wonder what we can do to invigorate more participation in the church and more people, I think there's nothing better you can do than to play a Michael Curry sermon for them. So I just offer that as a footnote.
Amen. Amen. We were joking about keeping up with Carla and, you know, in translation or interpretation. I think one of the best things I ever saw was Michael Curry giving a talk, I think in Austin, Texas, and one of our interpreters trying to keep up with him on stage. They did this little dance. If you can ever find it, it was so wonderful to watch. I mean, they were kind of dancing with each other and interpreting and everything. It was good. All right, are we ready? Okay, I think we've got some reports on ballots, so we're going to go to that now. Don't do anything with your device. Step away from the device. This is not what we're doing right now, I don't think.
Do you want me to read these, Greg? General Convention, clergy on the third ballot, Sabeth Fitzgibbons, 131, Jed Fox, 81, Ruth Ann Garcia, 75, Edmund Harris, 19, Elise Johnstone, 59, David Marshall, 31, Nick Mather, 60, Britt Olson, 117.
Okay, so this is just the majority. And so 2 elections, Sabeth Fitzgibbons and Britt Olson are elected.
General Convention, lay, third ballot, Sunni or Sunny Bannon, 12, Alyssa Johnson, 10, Michael Sewer, 125, Karen Sjostrom, 57, Lillian Springer, 19, April Thompson, 63.
Michael Sewer is elected. So by my calculation, we have one more vote to take, which is going to be the alternates in both orders for deputy for general convention. So as soon as we can get that going, that's what we're going to do. What I think I'll do now is let you stand up and take a break, but do not go outside this door, because we're going to do these, we're going to get these elections over with, and then you're going to get a nice long break. So just stand up, keep your hand on the table, don't move too far away. We'll get back to it as soon as we can.
Yeah, we can. I don't have to. Nobody's read anything to this. I've got one little thing.
These are prescription. If you can just waive these.
Okay.
And tell them to get them from me.
Perfect.
I will if I need to.
We're going to do it right now. Right before he starts.
Yeah, that's great. I guess, we're going to need a time here. You can do it with
Okay.
and I'll try and get a time for you. I think it's going to be 30 minutes after we end, is what they said. For the full start time is what they're going to shoot for. Is
No,
30
it's just the alternate.
Okay. Excellent.
Majority vote. It's just going to be voted again. It's by series.
I was just curious. I mean, that just seems like a logic. Yeah, it's going to be, after we close here, they have 30 minutes before we'll start up again.
But are we supposed to be collecting the voting machines off the tables or anything like that?
Oh, I don't know about that. You'll have to ask Greg, or April might even.
All right, we're ready for a report. If we'll come back together, get back in our seats, we can get on with it. As soon as you can put the report up, please do it, and we'll report that out. Or we're voting. Okay. Okay, so we're voting, so get your devices. Make sure they're on. You're voting for one person, and this is the only vote, as I understand it. We're going to vote for one. We're going to do it 4 times. We're going to vote for one at a time, 4 times, and then we're done. When this list comes out next time, whoever has the top 4 votes will be the alternates in that order. But we're going to do 4 votes. So you're going to get 4 votes for 4 different people. All right? Just like we were doing earlier. We're going to do the first one now. These are for clergy deputies. The polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We'll go to the second selection. Again, vote for somebody else. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We'll go to the third selection. Again, a different person. Third time. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We're going to do this one more time, the 4th time. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We're going to move now to laity. Okay, we can actually get the results now. I can't read them that fast. Okay, there we go. So, we have Jed Fox as the first alternate. Elise Johnstone, Nick Mather, and Ruth Ann Garcia are the 4 alternates to General Convention and clergy. All right, we'll move to General Convention lay deputies. All right. We're going to make our first selection, just as we've been doing it. We're going to do it 4 times, just like we did it last time. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We'll go to our second selection from this list. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We'll go to the third selection. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. Fourth and final selection. Polls are open. Ten seconds. Polls are closed. We should be able to get results pretty quickly, and we're going to wait on that. All right, there is our vote. It will be April Thompson, first alternate, and then going down, Karen Zostrom, Lillian Springer, and Elisa Johnson, elected lay deputies to General Convention. Guess what? We're done voting. I want you to thank Mark, who's the man right back there who's had to struggle with this machine all day long and our frustrations, but let's thank him for all the work that he's done there. I want to recognize this head table, and especially on this last convention, just how much they mean to me and how much they help me up here. I want you to acknowledge them and the people that are sitting at that table over there, because they're just as helpful to this. I want to thank them, and I want you to thank them for all that they do for this convention. For designing and leading our liturgies, especially Sabeth Fitzgibbons, Joseph Peters Matthews, the Liturgy and Arts Commission, the Circles of Color, as well as our musician, Fred McElroy. Let's thank them all. Josh Hostler oversaw the necrology and the baptism, so let's thank him. ACL interpretation, Diane Lynch, and Ellen Carpenter. And Spanish language interpretation, Claudia Azar and Gabriela de Castro. They follow me around. I follow them around all over the church. Let's thank them for their interpretation. For our youth and our page coordinators, Sister Dee Brazier, Robert Graham, and for Katrina Hamilton for stepping in as elections chair when we didn't think we would have to have one. So thank all them. Our diocesan staff, I want to thank all of them specifically right now for the work they do on this day, but also the work they do every day on your behalf. So thank you, diocesan. And I want to thank all of you for your amazing patience. And we are just a little bit behind, but we still have much fun to do. So let's see. We're going to go to final announcements, and then we'll take a break, and I'll tell you about that when we get there. So I'll turn to the secretary for announcements.
My first announcement is I have someone's prescription glasses. You might like them. You can get them from April. April is at the table to our right. In addition, the convention Eucharist will begin 30 minutes after we close this session. This ballroom will be open to all those who would like to attend with overflow seating in Crystal C. It will also be on the live stream for our virtual attendees. The Eucharist includes the bishop's address to the convention. Clergy vesting will be in the Mercer room. Information on the 2023 convention will be shared as that information becomes available.
All right, thank you. I am saying that we will begin the Eucharist at 4:20. We need 30 minutes to convert the room, or we would do it quicker. They've already shaved off 15 minutes, so 30 minutes, 4:20. We meet back here, I believe, is that correct? For Eucharist. So please join us for that and for ordinations of 3 vocational deacons.
The offering?
Oh, the offering today is going to Krista Saul. I'm honored to serve on the board. Works with forced immigration and human rights in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. So I urge you to be generous.